أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله من أول الدنيا إلى فنائها ومن الآخرة إلى بقائها. الحمد لله على كل نعمة وأستغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه وهو أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. For the well-being of Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, for his hastened return, so that we are all enlisted among his supporters, his servants. Our children, they are all enlisted among the best of Muslims. The problems, the chaos that is happening in Afghanistan, for the Mazlumiyat of the Mu'mineen and everyone there, and every corner of the world, for the well-being of everyone. Salawat. Two mas'alas and then we'll get on to the topic. One is Ashura, inshallah, will be on Thursday. And it is highly makruh to work on that day, earn anything on that day. And if your job is such that you are bound to work and you cannot take a day off, whatever you earn on that day, give away in the way of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. If you cannot take a day off, if you cannot not work, there you just take that whatever you earn that day, give it to a majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada, wherever it be. And that is how we can show our gratitude to Sayyid al-Shuhada, our association to the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. One. Secondly, according to the ruling of all of the maraji' today, in this day and age, majority of them, they believe Ahl Kitab to be Pak. Ahl Kitab means the people of the book, which means Jews and Christians only. Only Jews and Christians, they are Pak. And Tahir, according to this opinion, means that just like a Muslim, when he cooks something for you and if he touches you with a wet hand, everything is fine. If Ahl Kitab also, they touch you with a wet hand, it is not najis. But if they are preparing a meal for you, it has to be halal meat. Halal slaughtered by them, it is not halal. Only in the preparation of food, if they are preparing any vegetarian meal or cooking a meat which is halal for you, that is okay, then you can consume. Otherwise, meat that has been slaughtered by Ahl Kitab, it is not halal. Ahl Kitab means Jews and Christians, they are Tahir. That's one. Now what about the others, Hindus, for example, Sikhs, etc.? According to the ruling of all of them, they are not Tahir, not Pak. So if they prepare something for you, even if it is vegetarian, so if there is a touch in it, hand contact in the preparation of that meal, you cannot eat. So if the sweets that are sold here in all these sweet shops or samosas made, if it is made by them, we cannot eat. That is the ruling of all of the maraji' today. Now, if it is Ahl Kitab doing it, that's fine. If it's clear, if you need any more clarification, you can ask me after this session. Salawat. So if they give you anything, you cannot eat and you cannot give it to anyone to eat as well. So you cannot give it to someone who knows that Tahir, knows them to be okay, and you cannot even give it to them. Neither can you eat, nor can you give it to someone to eat. We talked about the existence of God, His justice, His adl, His might, and then the reason that why do we need a deen, and then we talked about thanking the Almighty Allah in the way of shukr, and the best way to thank Him was by prayers. And all of the prophets, 124,000, all of them came for the guidance of mankind, and that also needs thanks and gratitude. Yesterday we talked about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that he served for 63 years. No one served like him. And for all the services that he provided, he needs to be paid. He says, I don't want anything from any one of you. The only thing I want from you is that you love my Ahlulbayt. And we said that Ahlulbayt also, they are Amirul Mu'mineen, Hazrat Fatima, their children, and all the descendants, the Imams, they are the Ahlulbayt. He says, I don't want any reward, just love the Ahlul Bayt. Now, man, he likes someone who does good to him. And the better, the more good that is done, the more he likes. And the example that was mentioned, even little babies, they understand. If you laugh in front of the baby smiles back at you. That is, the baby also understands that you have to thank him, and how that is the way how the baby thanks you, and that is by smiling at you. Someone who has served us the most, it is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and a lot of gratitude has to be showed to Rasulullah. If our parents, if they have right over us, that is, they have right over us, they take care of us, provide food and shelter for us. Now then we have Rasulullah, he says that Ana wa Aliyun abawa hadhihi al-ummah. I and Ali are the fathers of this nation. So if we have that much of a right there for our parents, then Rasulullah and to Amirul Mu'mineen much more. Because in addition to the body that we have, and they have right on that, they have the right on the souls, because they are educating us, they are training us. So the prophets, they have a lot more of haqq and right over us. Now, when it comes to food and clothing and shelter, even animals have that. So we are common with the animals in that aspect. But the difference between us and the animals is that there is guidance that is given to us, education is there, ta'aleem is there, tarbiyat is there. For the animals, that is not there. So that way we see that there is a lot more of a right that we have towards the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Also, if you see, all of the Imams that we have, all of them were killed. All of them, without any exception. They come up and say that we have Imams from the Sunni, Ahlul Sunnah as well. They have 4 Imams, none of them were even scratched. They had a lavish, a comfortable life, and they passed away. Our Imams, all of them were killed for the services they provided. Plus, the Imams that they have, their Imams came about 80 or 120 years after the Prophet. Our Imams, they came immediately after the Prophet. So there is no gap between Rasulullah and the Imams that we have. Between their Imams and Rasulullah, there is a centuries gap. Quran says, As-sabiqoon, as-sabiqoon. Whoever is first and foremost, you go to him. Quran says, فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ عَلَى الْقَائِدِينَ. Someone who is a mujahid, someone who works hard, who strives hard, Allah has excelled him. Our Imams, all of them, they have been mujahid. All of them, they are shaheed. So in every aspect you see that excellence is present over there. And then the Imams that we have, all of them, they are ma'soom. Allah says, that إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. So they have been pure. Salawat. They have been purified by Allah, they have been taught by Allah, they have been appointed by Allah, and all of them they are shaheed, and there is no gap between them and Rasulullah. That is why we take the word of the Imams, and such a lofty position Allah has given to them, we also abide by that honor that Allah has given to them. There are three things that we have to give importance to. One is, we have to have a relationship with the Prophet, with the Imams, and now with the Imam of our age, Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. How do we have that relationship? In three ways. One is by having that ma'rifah, you know them. You know them, that is first of all their ID, who the Prophet is, who the Imam is, whose son he is. The basic information that everyone has to have. And the more that ma'rifah is, the more information you get, and the closer we get to the ma'asumeen alayhimus salam. So first is ma'rifah, we know them. Second is mahabbat, we love them. So this coming to a majlis is that love that we are showing towards the Ahlulbayt. Being dressed in black in the azhar means that we are showing and we love them. That is why we are sad in their sorrow. And likewise, being obedient to them is that mahabbat that we portray towards them. Accepting them in all walks of life, that is that third step that we have to have. So first, know them. Second, love them. Third, accept them in all walks of life. Whatever the Prophet has said, you accept blindly. Not that I pick and choose certain things, and certain things I abide by, certain I don't. No, whatever he said, I take it. Whatever he said don't, I put it aside. If you look into this a little bit with a little bit of a detail, if Rasulullah has a deen that he has given to me, if I don't abide by certain things in that deen, means that I am opposing Rasulullah in that what I am not accepting from him. In those wajibat that I am not abiding by, means I am against Rasulullah. So when I accept him in all walks of life, means that acceptance and mahabbat is also there. Quran says that وَقُلِ عَمَلُوا, do whatever you want to. فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ, that Allah is watching your actions. Says not only Allah, وَرَسُولُهُ, Rasul is also watching your actions. The Imams also, they are watching your actions. Imam, he is alive. May he be in his grave, in his zarih, or may he be present like Imam al-Asr, or may he be in ghaibat like him. In all phases, in all cases, they are alive. They hear us, they get our information. And if you go to the ziyarat, inshallah, there we stand by the entrance and we say, Ashhadu annaka tasma'u kalami, I bear witness that you hear me. وَتَرُدُّ salami, and you reply back to my salam. That is my aqidah, that is your aqidah. Imam, in his grave also he gets the message. It isn't as such that I have to go to him, say something to him in words, or write a note and put it in his zari for him to get that message. No. It comes to your heart, to your thought, to your mind. It is in the inbox of the Imam instantly, immediately. He gets that information from you at that very point. Quran also has this ayah, says the same, that whatever you do gets to the Imam. One of the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is Qais ibn Musahhar. Imam, he sends him with a message. When he comes to Kufa and he finds out the situation over there, he says that this letter of Imam, if it gets to these people over here, I don't want that to happen. They will know what the plans of the Imam are. So what he does is that He rips that note and he swallows it. They take him, they arrest him and ask him what was in the letter, what did Imam write? He did not say. Says consequences are dread, you will be killed. Says I don't mind. I don't want that letter of Imam to get into your najis hands. That's why I ripped it, I swallowed it. He is killed in a very brutal way. Imam gets the message. There Imam prays for him, recites this ayah, min al-mu'mineen rijalun sadaqu ma ahadullah alayh minhum man qada nahbah wa minhum man yantazir wa ma baddalu tabdila. From among the mu'mineen there are some who had that allegiance with their Imam, with their Lord. They abided by that allegiance, and some of them died, some of them waited. And then Imam has a dua, faces Kufa and says, Allahumma ja'al lana wa li shi'atina. Allah, make it as such for us and for our Shias, that is manzilan kariman, a lofty position give them. And where is that? Wajma baynana wa bayna shi'atina fi mustaqarrin min rahmatik. Unite us with the Shias in your mercy, by you, with you. Innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. Whoever serves the Imams are there. They pray for us. They want us to be with them wherever they go in the highest ranks in the heavens. That is as a result of that mahabbat, that ma'rifah, and then accepting them in all walks of our life. There isn't anyone who comes to this door of Ahlulbayt and is stranded. No one. Anyone who wants whatever he wants comes to this door of Ahlulbayt, he gets it. No beggar ever was returned by them then or even today. That is why we've got all these glorious riwayat from Ma'asumeen. Rasulullah, he says, Ma'rifatu ali Muhammadin bara'atun minan nar. That you know them, you will be safe from the fire. Hubbu ali Muhammadin jawazun ala sirat. That you love them, you will be given a permit to pass on the sirat. And then wal wilayatu li ali Muhammadin amanun min al azab. You accept them as your custodians in all walks of life. Says for you an aman, a protection will be given from every azab of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. It's simple tips. Just ma'rifah, know them, love them, accept them. That's it. Nothing else, no more. And someone who is the firmest on the sirat in the akhirah is ashaddukum hubban li ahli bayti. That's someone who has the most love towards my Ahlul Bayt. Rasulullah says he will be the most firm on the sirat as well. So that is another lesson that we get. And also it's easy tips told to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Now it is the days of Azab, and whenever the name of Shimr la'natullah alayhi is mentioned, we curse him. We ask Allah to banish him from all the mercy. Now, who is this Shimr? He is the killer of Imam Hussein. In reality, this Shimr, he wasn't an ordinary person. He was someone who performed 16 Hajj bare feet. He walked all the way for Hajj. He is someone who offers a lot of prayers, fasts, and during the time of Amirul Mu'mineen in the battle of Siffin, he was one of the commanders of Amirul Mu'mineen. And he got wounded in those battles that he fought alongside with Amirul Mu'mineen. Later, he shifted from Amirul Mu'mineen and then starts hating him and his household. Someone who was so close to Amirul Mu'mineen, someone with that beautiful past, what happened that he has a head-on collision, drifts apart, becomes the killers of his son, and someone who kills Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in the most brutal way. That head-on collision is as a result of disobedience to Waliullah, to Amirul Mu'mineen, as a result of love and towards this dunya and all the charms that are there. Now, when we look at the ashab of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, in the enemies of Imam Hussein, these 20,000 people who were against Imam Hussein in Karbala, these 20,000 people, every day they performed a ghusl in the Furats for extra sawab, because they are fighting Imam Hussein. With that mindset they came to Karbala. So have a ghusl done and then stand and oppose Imam Hussein, and then you get an extra sawab with that mindset. Now here, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, Zuhr Ashura, it was time for salat, and then Imam says, we'll take a break, we'll offer our prayers first. Those Mala'in, they said to Imam Hussein that you want to pray, do you think your prayers are accepted? Here Habib ibn Mazahir alayhi salam, he stood against them and said that, do you think your prayers are accepted and the prayers of the Prophet's son, the Imam Masoom, his prayers are not accepted? So there is a dispute, and Habib ibn Mazahir is killed before Zawal, that is before the Zuhr prayers were offered. So those people were such that they offered prayers, they abided by deen. And then when you look into the Maqatil also, when Hazrat Zainab sees that Imam Hussein has fallen to the ground, there she comes and says that, Ama fikum Muslim. When this shimr is sitting on the chest of Abu Abdullah, she says, Ama fikum Muslim. Is there not a Muslim over here? Can you not see the son of the Prophet is in such a state, and you all look at him? And that Mal'oon who comes forward to behead Imam Hussein, he says that I looked at him and then he turned back. Shimr says, Umar Saad says that, why did you retreat? Why do you go back? He says that نَظَرْتُ إِلَىٰ عَيْنَيْهِ كَأَنَّهَا عَيْنَا رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. Says, I looked at his eyes as if they were the eyes of Rasulullah. I could not go forward. So I retreated, I came back. And then this Mal'oon Shimr, he comes forward. So this head-on collision is as a result of this disobedience towards the Ahlulbayt, disobedience towards Rasulullah, disobedience towards Awliyaullah, standing against the deen of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The talents that Allah gives us, whatever that talent is. If I've got a good voice and I can recite or sing, if I don't invest that talent of mine in the right way, definitely it will be spent in the wrong way. No doubt in that. If Allah has given wealth to me, and if I do not spend the wealth in the right way, definitely it will be spent in the haram way. Hadith says that if khums is wajib on you, zakat is wajib on you, and if you don't give that share of khums and zakat from your funds, says that much of an amount of yours will be spent in haram, no doubt in that. So talents, abilities, life that Allah has given to us, it has to be spent in the way of haqq. If someone can recite, what better than reciting for Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, or using that voice for the recitation of Quran. That is how we have to invest. Says, Haran kas ke qadam zad be astan Hussein, aziz har do jahan shod, qasam be jan Hussein. Whosoever steps in the way of Hussein, he becomes dignified in the two worlds, dignified here, dignified in the hereafter, just because of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. In one of these quotes, our fifth Imam, he says to Jabir, says, Balligh Shi'ati Annis Salam. Says Jabir, because he's one of the ashab of Rasulullah who has seen the Prophet, then Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Mujtaba, Imam Hussein, Imam Sajjad, and Imam Baqir. Rasulullah had said that when you see my grandson, that is the fifth Imam, convey my salam to him. And here the message is that is Jabir, you send my salams to all the Shias. وَعَلَمْهُمْ, tell them, أَنَّهُ لَا قَرَابَةَ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ وَلَا يُتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيْهِ إِلَّا بِالطَّاعَةِ لَهُ. Says, if you want to know that there is a nearness between us and you, it is only in the obedience of Allah. If we are obedient to Allah, that nearness to us is also there. If God forbid someone is disobedient to Allah, then that nearness to us also will not be sought. Now, he says that فَقُلْ لَهُمْ أَنَّ أَبِي مَاتَ غَرِيبًا. Tell them that my father was killed alone, gharib. وَأَنَّ أَبِي مَاتَ عَطْشَانًا. And tell them that my father was killed thirsty. So remember him. And then he says that إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِي, that we have that Allah sends salawat, and then the angels, they send salawat upon the Prophet. Allah فَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى الْبَاكِينَ عَلَى الْحُسَيْنِ. Imam says that know that Allah sends salawat on every person who cries for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Just like you sending salawat on Rasulullah, when you cry for Rasulullah and his household and Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Allah sends salutations upon you. Tonight we'll talk a little bit about Zainab Kubra, this messenger of Karbala, that is, who takes the charge of Karbala. Whatever we have today, the credit of that goes to Zainab Kubra. That is, when she was born, there the baby is given to the mother to be named. Mother says, I can't, give it to Amirul Mu'mineen, let him name. Given to the father, father says, I cannot do that. Rasulullah has to name the baby. Now the child, when she is born, Rasulullah was away. When he returns, says that, Ya Rasulullah, name the baby. Rasulullah says, I cannot. Allah has to name her. Jibreel descends and says that name her Zainab. Zainab means zinat, and the adornment of the father. Zinat ab. That is the adornment of the father. So she's named Zainab, just like Imam Hussein and Hassan alayhim as-salam were named by Allah, she also is named by Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. The other thing that we see upon the birth of Zainab Kubra is that her eyes are closed. The baby is given to the mother, eyes are closed. In the laps of the father, eyes are closed. In the laps of her brother, Imam Mujtaba, eyes are closed. She opens her eyes in the laps of Hussein ibn Ali. That is that love and bond that she has from that very moment that she is born. She has so many titles: Zainab Kubra, Siddiqiyya Sughra, Aqila Bani Hashim, Kulsum. All these are the titles that we have for Hazrat Zainab. Now when we look into the message that she has and the mission that she carries after Imam Hussein. Now for example, if an Imam is leading the prayers and for whatever reason he cannot continue, there is someone who can continue the task. So there is always a successor who takes the charge of the person who is leading. Now here, when Imam is giving a charge to Zainab Kubra, it means that she has to have the ability, the capacity to hold that mission. Imam is ma'soom, so she has to be ma'soom to whatever extent to carry out this mission until a certain period of time. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is ill. Whatever that maslahat was that Allah wanted to save him in Karbala, until the situation is better, Zainab Kubra has to take the charge of Imamat, of Imam Hussein and also Imam Sajjad. So it means that she herself has to be ma'soom to get that charge from her. Likewise, Abul Fazl al-Abbas alayhi salam, that ismat, infallibility, not the infallibility that we say about the Imams, but to a lower level. But she has to be in the zone of ismat and infallibility to be able to take the charge. Now, with regards to the knowledge that she has, just like the Imams who were educated and taught by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, Zainab Kubra is the same. When she teaches the women and she gives out lectures on tafsir, Imam Sajjad was listening to one of her talks. He comes and says that, Ya Amma, Anti bihamdillah alimatun ghayr muallima. You are an alima without being taught, without having seen any ustad. And then you understand things that others do not understand, nor someone needs to make you understand. When she was giving the durus in tafsir, when she comes to the Suratul Maryam, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad, that is the opening and the starting of the surah. She gives the tafsir saying Kaf means Karbala, Ha means halak, destruction, Ya means Yazid, Ain means Atash, thirst, and then Kaf and Saad means Sabr, patience. That is, unless she is taught divinely by the Almighty, she wouldn't be able to give that tafsir. Now the chastity of Hazrat Zainab, her haya is such that Yahya Mazani, her neighbor, he says that she was my neighbor for 7 years. And in these 7 years, I never saw Zainab. I never knew how she looks, what her height is, what her features are, as if she did not exist next door to my house. That is that haya that she has. Zainab Kubra, this khutbah fadakiyya or khutbah of Hazrat Zahra that we have, say the first reporter of this khutbah is Zainab Kubra. At the age of 5, she memorizes the entire khutbah of Hazrat Zainab of Hazrat Zahra that was delivered in Fadak, a very long khutbah. So she is the main source of that khutbah that was recited by her. Zainab Kubra, she's got all that knowledge which we call at ilm ladunni, that is a knowledge bestowed by the Almighty Allah. Zainab Kubra, she sees and she opens her eyes in the laps of Abu Abdullah and Hussein, and when she wants to get married, and even before that, she says that I have to see brother Hussein a few times every day. 2-3 times I have to see him. If I don't see, I cannot resist, I cannot carry on. And then when it is time for Zainab Kubra to get married to Abdullah bin Ja'far, her first cousin, here Zainab Kubra says, I will marry him on a condition that he allows me, Zainab, to see my brother Hussein a few times every day. And if Hussein does travel, my husband Abdullah bin Ja'far should allow me to travel wherever Hussein goes to. With that condition, she marries Abdullah bin Ja'far. That is that bond, that mahabbat Zainab Kubra has to her brother. This Zainab Kubra, she is a strong lady. Resemblance-wise, she resembles Khadija Kubra, wife of Rasulullah, her grandmother. Now, like Hazrat Zahra, Ruqayya, the daughter of Imam Hussein, she resembles Hazrat Zahra the most. Here, Hazrat Zainab resembles Hazrat Khadija the most. So whenever Ahlulbayt were reminded of their grandmother Khadija, they used to see Hazrat Zainab. Now, the respect that Imam Hussein has towards Zainab Kubra is the same respect Rasulullah has towards his daughter Fatima Zahra. That Rasulullah comes, stands before his daughter, kisses her hand. Likewise, Imam Hussein does the same with Zainab Kubra, stands before her, kisses her hand. Now here Zainab Kubra, she has three duties after Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. First of all, supporting and defending the Imam. Then propagating the message of the Shuhada. And third duty is looking after these orphans, these women and children who are left behind after Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now, when there is a debate between the brother and the sister, Imam Hussein and Hazrat Zainab alayhim as-salam. Here Hazrat Zainab asks her brother, is the agony that you will see, is that more, or the pain that Prophet Adam saw, that was more? In reply, he says that Adam, he was separated from Hawa, but then later he was comforted and Hawa was given back to Adam. But then I will be killed, I will be martyred. She says, you or Ibrahim? He in reply says, the fire in which Prophet Ibrahim was thrown, that cooled down and changed into a garden of bliss. But those blazes of Karbala, the war in Karbala, that will devastate me. She says, are you Your Excellence or Zakaria? Says, Zakaria was buried after being killed. My body will lay bare in that sizzling sand, and my body will be crushed and pounded under the hooves of those horses. Says, you or Yahya? Says, Yahya was beheaded, but his house was not looted or plundered. I will be beheaded. My house and my household, they will be set ablaze. Everyone will be looted. Says, you or Ayub? Says, you, Ayub, his wounds they healed, but my wounds they will never heal. Now here, when we look into the last moments of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Zainab Kubra comes by Amirul Mu'mineen, and then she says that, Father, I heard a hadith from Ayman, Rasulullah's wife, and she said about the Karbala, the events that would unfold in Karbala. Can you just certify this hadith? He says that, Amirul Mu'mineen says, whatever you heard is true. What I would like to top up to that information is that, Zainab, that you will be taken into captivity, taken from town to town, that Ayman did not tell you. That is what I would like to add. Zainab Kubra, she has 5 children: Ali, Aun, Muhammad, Abbas and Kulsum. From her children, 2 of them were killed in Karbala, Aun and Muhammad. Now all of them are her children from Abdullah bin Ja'far. Now this Zainab Kubra, when she sends her 2 sons to the battlefront, this selfless lady, she doesn't even look back. When these 2 sons are martyred and they are brought back, she is happy that at least she was able to contribute something for her Imam, for her master, Sayyid al-Shuhada. Her dealing with the children of Sayyid al-Shuhada and her own children is different. When she sees the 2 sons are there, she doesn't worry. When Ali Akbar falls to the ground, Zainab Kubra rushes towards the battlefront. She takes the body of Ali Akbar and brings it towards the camp. Now father, in front of the father, this shahadat has taken place. So that the father is not weakened, she sends Imam back to the battlefront and takes the body, the shattered body of Ali Akbar alayhi salam, towards the camps. Zainab Kubra, she is Ummul Masa'ib. Ummul Masa'ib means someone who's seen the maximum musibat. She is the one and an eyewitness when Rasulullah, she passes away. Rasulullah's hunut, that is the kafur that was brought forth from the heaven, to be applied onto the 7 masajid, that is the forehead, the nose and the 2 palms, the 2 knees and toes. This is called hunut. It is wajib. On every dead it has to be applied. This hunut kafur was brought for Rasulullah from the heaven. Zainab Kubra brings the portion that belonged to Rasulullah. And when Amirul Mu'mineen passes away, it is Zainab Kubra who is by the bedside of Amirul Mu'mineen. When Imam Mujtaba passes away, it is Zainab Kubra who is the first eyewitness to what Masa'ib Imam Mujtaba is going through. Because Imam Mujtaba was killed by his own wife. And then when generally in all these pains and problems, a person, he confides in his spouse, his wife, and tells and shares the problem that he is going through. Imam Mujtaba couldn't do that because the wife, she is the killer. What he does is call Zainab Kubra. Zainab comes to Imam Mujtaba and she sees that this Imam is throwing blood in that vessel. She calls Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, says, "Hey Hussein, come and see what is happening over here," to Imam Mujtaba. This Zainab Kubra, at the time of Hazrat Fatima's Shahada, Imam Hazrat Zahra calls Zainab, says, "Zainab, these 2 packages I want you to keep with you. So one of them belongs to Abu Zar's wife, give it to her. The second one is a shirt that Hussein will ask you on the day of Ashura. And Zainab, this shirt, when Hussein seeks from you, know that that is the day of separation between you and Hussein. I have a wasiyyah from you, Zainab." Says, "What is that, mother?" Says, "When you give this shirt to my son Hussein, I want you to kiss his neck." Zainab says, on the day of Ashura, when Imam comes and asks for the shirt, I gave that shirt to Hussein. And as the wasiyyat of my mother said, Imam was leaving, says, "Mahlan, mahla." Stop, brother Hussein. Imam says, "What happened, Zainab?" Says, "I have to fulfill a wasiyyat, a will of my mother." What is that? She had asked me to kiss your neck, Hussein, before you set off to the battleground. Here she kisses the neck of Imam Hussein. And after this tragedy of Karbala, Zainab Kubra comes by this shattered, pounded body of Hussein and kisses the veins of the neck of Imam and says, "Mother, you wanted me to kiss the neck. In addition to the neck, I kissed the veins of his neck as well." This Zainab Kubra, when she is moving towards Karbala, now here when Imam Hussein is in Mecca, is in Medina. Now when they want to set off, everyone is in their tent, and they say that the well-wishers, they say, "Hussein, if you are going to Karbala, go. Don't take the women and children with you." Zainab, she brings her head out of the camp and says that, "Who was that? Who said that Zainab cannot go to Karbala with Hussein?" Zainab is going to go everywhere where Hussein ibn Ali is going to go. That is Zainab Kubra. Now here, among the masa'ib that we see on this day of Ashura, they unfold a lot more from today. That is 7th of Muharram, water, it is shut off. There is no water in the camps that is allowed, and it cannot reach the camps. It was mentioned yesterday, there was a tent in which all these water vessels were placed, and these little infants, when they were hot and when they were feeling dehydrated and thirsty, they used to come to this tent, uncover their bellies and lie down on that cool, damp sand of that tent. Now here Zainab Kubra, when she sees that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein on that day of horror has fallen to the ground, and then this mal'oon is surrounding the Imam, she comes out from the tent. She says, "Ayuqtalu Abu Abdullah wa anta tanzuru ilayh?" Must Abu Abdullah, was Hussein be killed? And you guys all look at him. It is Zainab Kubra who sees Imam Hussein off. And then when it is time for farewell, all the women and children, Imam Hussein comes to the camp. Everyone has passed away. None of the members have remained. The last Shaheed is Ali Asghar, he also has passed away. And then it is Abdullah bin Hassan, Imam Hassan's son, 10 years old. He also has passed away. Here's the Imam Hussein when he comes here to say farewell. Zainab Kubra says, Mahlan, stop brother. Says, what is it, Zainab? Says, allow me to kiss your hands, Abu Abdullah. Allow me to kiss your feet, Ya Hussein. And upon seeing her, all the women and children, they come and they kiss the hands and feet of Abu Abdullah and Hussein and see him off. Zainab Kubra, she comes by the body of Abu Abdullah when Imam Hussein falls from the horse. Now this horse of Imam Hussein also had that much of shu'ur and understanding that it is an Imam who is seated on the horse and should not fall hard on the ground. So brings the Imam by the pit where Imam is to fall and slowly brings Imam down to the ground. Imam Hussein, when he falls to the ground, he makes a pillow-like structure with that sand and then places his wounded cheek on that pillow. Now here, the amount of arrows that had landed on this Mazloom Imam are numerous. And then when Imam could not fight anymore, he stood there to rest. Maqatil, they say that he stood there to rest just to breathe a little bit. That Mal'oon, he hits and throws a stone at the Imam alayhi salam. It lands on the forehead of the Imam. And then Imam's eyes are filled with blood. Imam bends down and with his shirt, he wants to wipe his eyes. And then that other Mal'oon, he comes and hits the Imam with an iron rod. Imam falls down. And here, when Zainab Kubra sees, she is the first eyewitness to see what is happening. Now, there are these different ways and methods that ulama have mentioned. And if you want to see what happened in Karbala, there is a procedure you go through. You cry for Imam Hussein 1 whole year, twice every day. And then you can see the Karbala, what happened on that day. Says there are two things that are impossible for you to see. One is the beheading and the sitting of Shimr on the chest of Imam Hussein. No one can see that vision. No one can see. This Zainab Kubra, she saw. And there she says, ثُمَّ انْحَدَرَتْ نَحْوَ الْمَعْرِكَةِ. Maqatil, they say, she ran towards the battlefront. وَهِيَ تَقُومُ مَرَّةً وَتَقْعُدُ أُخْرَى. She stands and she falls down. She stands and she falls down. Throwing that sand and the dust onto her head, she reaches Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And there she sits and says, Anta al-Husseinu akhi. Are you my brother Hussein? Anta ibn ummi. Are you my mother's son? Anta himana. Are you my supporter? Anta rajana. Are you our hope? And upon the pleading and crying of Zainab Kubra, Imam Hussein opens the corner of his eyes and there he could see Zainab Kubra. And then says to Zainab, stop Zainab. Zainab, stop. You're crying, you're pleading. Zainab says that, brother, I see you in such a state and you want me not to cry. Wa akha, wa abbasa, wa qillat nasira. How few are our supporters. Wa dayata min ba'dik. She pleads, she cries, and she brings Abu Abdullah back for a few moments. And then she sits behind Imam Hussein, makes him sit up, and Imam Hussein could breathe a little bit over here. Now, one of the other masahib that we see for Zainab Kubra, that is all the way through, from this day of Ashura until then she returns and the last moments of her life, she takes care of the caravan of these infants and orphans of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Just like Imam Hussein on the 9th of Muharram, that before he took his sword and behind the camps he was walking with the sword and then clearing and cleaning all the bushes and thorns. Zainab says that, Hussein, why are you cleaning those thorns and bushes? Imam says, tomorrow I can see that these children will be running about in these bushes and thorns. and I did not want them to be hurt. Now Zainab Kubra takes the charge of Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura. Now Zainab is seen with that sword, and she is roaming around clearing there. And she comes and sees that two of these children, they have passed away behind this tent in that ambush that has taken place. Zainab Kubra, she is the one who saves Imam Sajjad. When that ambush was there, and that Mal'oon Shimr, he says that set all these tents ablaze, burn them down, and then says that Sajjad is in that tent. She comes to Imam Sajjad and says, Imam, what are your orders? What are the instructions? Imam says, Alaykunna bil firar. You have to flee. You have to leave the tents. And when she sees that, the tents are all set ablaze, and Imam Sajjad is in the tent, she throws herself on Imam Sajjad. She saves Imam Sajjad, drags him out from that tent. This Zainab Kubra, she is the one who saved everyone. She is a strong lady. In age, she is 1.5 years younger than Imam Hussein. In Karbala, she is 58. Now this Zainab Kubra, on the morning of the 10th of Muharram, she is different. On that night of Sham-e Ghariban, or the evening of that day, this Zainab Kubra is such a broken lady that whoever saw her says, what happened, Zainab? You are broken down. Such an old hunch now. This Zainab Kubra, she couldn't even offer her prayers in the standing posture. There says in Quran that the horror of the day of judgment is such that even young children, they will turn old upon seeing the horror. The horror that was in Karbala was even worse than what is going to be on the day of judgment. Imam Sajjad, he was ill. Zainab Kubra, she saves. Then Zainab Kubra in the palace of Yazid, she saves everyone. That Mal'oon in that presence of Yazid says that has a desire towards one of the daughters of Imam Hussein. Zainab Kubra stood up strong, says, who was that? Who had that desire towards him? I dare that any one of you step forward towards any one of the Ashab and the family of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. One of the other masahib that we have for Zainab Kubra is that in Sham, in the ruins of Sham, a lady, she was distributing water and giving out water. Zainab says, why are you giving out water? She says, I had a nazr, I had a vow. And that vow is that Allah, for the well-being of my master Hussein, I am giving out water to all those who are in need, to all those who are captives and prisoners. Says, what was your vow? Says, in the rule of Imam Ali alayhi salam, I had a lot of problems and I was going through a tough time. I came for shifa to Amirul Mu'mineen. Hussein was a young child at that time. Imam Ali said, go forward Hussein, bless her with your Mubarak hand. And I gained shifa by the hand of Hussein. Since then I had this nazr, this vow to help everyone who is in need, hoping to see my master Hussein one day. Zainab says, your vow, it has been fulfilled. Says, how is that? Says, this is the head of Hussein ibn Ali that you see. Zainab Kubra. And then when all the women, they come to see the head of Imam Hussein and the prisoners in the ruins of Sham, Yazid's wife, she says that everyone has been to the prisons to see these captives. I haven't been there. Allow me to go. Yazid says, yes, you can go, but observing all the formalities because you are the queen here. She says, all right. A throne is brought into those ruins in the prisons, and she comes and sits there. Says, who are you? Says, you don't recognize me, Hind? Says, who are you? Says, we are from Medina. Yazid's wife says, in Medina, do you know the Bani Hashim locality? She says, yes, we know that. Do you know Ali in Medina? Says, yes, I know Ali in Medina. Says that I used to be there and I learned a lot over there. I was educated by Zainab, Ali's daughter. Do you know her whereabouts? Do you know where she is? Zainab Kubra says that you did not recognize me, Hind. I am that very It is this Yazid's wife comes back to the palace and says that, Yazid, what have you done? She revolts against her husband. The head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is removed from the entrance of the palace of Yazid, and everything changes. Now when Yazid changes his policies and wants to send off Ahlulbayt in honor, he says he gives 200,000 gold coins and says, take this as the blood money of Hussein. Zainab says, shame on you, Yazid. 200,000 gold coins for my Hussein. When Salah says, a random mu'min, the honor that he has is the honor of Kaaba, and for Hussein you want to give 200,000 gold coins? He prepares a lavish ride with 300 to 500 horses, very lavishly made, to take them back to wherever they want, to remain in Sham or to Karbala or back to Medina. Zainab says, Yazid, aren't you ashamed? And then says, we are a procession of azar, of mourning. We haven't cried for Hussein ibn Ali. First of all, a place should be given to us, a Husainiya be set up, that we cry for Hussein first, and then we will see what has to be done. And if we were to go back to wherever we want to go, not in this lavish ride, all these rides have to be changed into black. That we wear black in the azar of Imam, all the Husainiyas, they are adorned in black. That is what we have learned from Zainab Kubra, Salamullahi alayha. Now this Zainab Kubra, Imam al-Asr, in one of these Ziyarat al-Nahiyah that we have, there is a statement there. In the Ziyarat Nahiyat al-Muqaddasa, Imam says, فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّكَ عَلَيْكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوعِ دَمًا. That is, I cry for you twice a day, and instead of tears, I shed blood. Now this alim, he says that I asked the Imam, what is this for? Who is this for? That you cry twice a day and you shed blood instead of tears. Who is that? Is that Ali Akbar? Imam says if Ali Akbar was alive, he also would have cried twice a day and would have shed tears of blood. Says, is that Abbas that you cry for, Imam? Says if Abbas was alive, he would have done the same. He would have cried for twice a day and blood. Says, was it Imam Hussein? Says Imam Hussein also would have done the same. Says, that is for my aunt Zainab. That is Andubannaka, that I cry for her. Sabahan wa masa'a, night and day. Wala anduban wala abkiyanna lak alayka, and I cry for her. Badalat dumu edaman, that is, I cry tears of blood for her. This Zainab Kubra, in the last moments of her life, that is, Abdullah bin Ja'far is the reporter here. He says, now according to this report, says that Zainab Kubra is on the deathbed. On the deathbed, and she says that, Abdullah, take me out, not here under this roof. Zainab cannot die in the roof, under the roof, in the shelter, in the shade. Take me out in the sun. Says, why Zainab? Says, my brother Hussein died in that sizzling sand of Karbala, in that blazing desert of Karbala. And you want Zainab to die under this shade, under this shelter? Not possible. Zainab is brought out in the sun. And then Abdullah bin Ja'far, he says, I see she has something in her hand. And then she kisses it, places it onto her chest, repeats it over and over again. And then he says, I come and see. It is that blood-stained shirt of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam that was with her throughout her life, and with that love and mahabbat that she had towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, she gives away her life. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun. Ilahi بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها 10 times. Ya Allah, Ya Allahu, for your hajat, for your mu'mineen, for those who have passed away, for those who are ill and ailing, for the well-being of everyone in Afghanistan, for mu'mineen worldwide, for everyone who has requested for hajat, for our parents, for our grandparents, for our children, for our generations to come, so that this majlis of Abu Abdullah and Hussein is accepted from every one of us. بقبول حسن ماتم Hussein.
हर दुरूद और हर सलाम, हर दुरूद और हर सलाम मांगे हुसैन तेरे नाम।